Arm of the Revolutionary War soldier for a few minutes here. That's the musket. That's what I'm carrying. Musket has two defining characteristics. Number one, it's a smooth bore weapon. Number two, it has bayonet. Rifles don't have either one of those. Why is that important? Musket is not an accurate weapon. It's an area weapon. In fact, a musket is manufactured without sights. So you can't aim it. You can point it in a direction and pull the trigger. And that's what Revolutionary War soldiers did. They did it in massed formations, hundreds or thousands at a time, shooting at the opponent about 100 yards away, because that's all the further one of these shoots is 100 yards, then the ball drops out of the sky. So it's a difficult weapon to hunt with, for example. There's no hunting with a musket. So why are we using them? Because they're cheap. These are mass-produced weapons. The French government supplied the Continental Army 200,000 muskets to prosecute the Revolutionary War. And that's where we were armed from the French. They gave us the powder and the flints to go with them. Without that, we wouldn't have had a Revolutionary War. This is a very difficult weapon to fire. It requires 7 separate steps to load. If you miss one of those, doesn't go off. Even if you do all of those things and you pull the trigger, oftentimes it doesn't go off. It's very complicated, a lot of variables. So when George Washington trained the Continental Army, he trained them because they were unfamiliar with weapons generally. He trained the officers to go command by command to load one of these, and all of the soldiers would have to give him a visual cue that they understood what his order was on loading this so that they wouldn't make a mistake. Believe it or not, this musket is a rapid-fire weapon. The soldier was expected to be able to reload and fire in 20 seconds after firing at one time. A rifle, comparable rifle of the time, you couldn't reload in under a minute. So this is a rapid-fire weapon. Okay, so there's 7 steps to load it. I'm going to go through those steps. If you watch close, you'll see the visual cue. I will do it, but I will not tell you that I'm doing it. The last 3 commands are the firing commands. No soldier fired a musket unless he was told to do so. So the last 3 commands are make ready, take aim, and fire. So if you have a problem with loud noises, when I say make ready, you should cover your ears, okay? Does all you kids understand that? When I say make ready, what are you going to do? Right, okay. So, are there any questions about this? I'm fixing to go through the steps and we'll see if it works. Okay, so imagine that I'm one of 2,000 soldiers, and we're in 3 rows in a field, and over there about 100 yards is another 2,000 soldiers in red coats, not blue coats, and they're in 3 rows, and we're going to have a battle. So the officers on both sides will ensure that their soldiers are loaded and primed. Then they'll wave to each other that they're ready for battle, because we're not going to have a battle until everybody's ready, okay? Wouldn't be fair, would it? Okay. So I'm standing here along with 1,999 others, and the first command from the officer would be to half-cock fire lock. So I'll bring the weapon down, and I'd go to 1 click. Now this weapon is now on safe to prevent premature detonation. We're going to be handling powder. You don't want this thing to go off on its own. I could get hurt, you know. So we have a safety in 1762. It's amazing. So I'm on safe. The next command is to handle cartridge. In the box, pull out a cartridge. This is a paper cartridge. Typically it would have a ball and powder in it. Today we are not using balls, just powder, okay? This is a visual cue right here. I'm telling the officer that I'm prepared to prime pan. I'm going to put some powder in the pan, then shut pan. I will then be prepared to charge cartridge, which means put the ball, the powder, and the paper down the bore. I will draw rammers, ram down cartridge, Return rammer. Now that's important so I don't shoot the rammer downrange and not be able to reload. Okay, then I'll go back to shoulder arms. Now theoretically, all of the soldiers are primed and loaded and we're ready to have a battle. When it's time to go, the officer will say, make ready! Take aim! Fire! Then he'll say, prime and load, giving me 20 seconds to prime and load on my own while the bad guys are shooting at me and everybody's complaining about the heat and all that other good stuff. And I'm trying to remember how to do all this. Then I'll go back to shoulder arms and we'll have a second volley that would involve make ready, take aim, fire. And so I fired twice. That would be 2 volleys. Typically, battles rarely lasted longer than 4 or 5 volleys, if they lasted that long. And one side or the other would be leaving the field of battle, and the battle would be over. The object was not to kill your enemy. The object of battle in 1770s continental warfare was to get your enemy to leave the field, leaving you the victor. That's the way that worked. Wow. Are there any questions? Say again? Bob.
Anna, you missed it. You missed it.
Oh well. Any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.